and then I facilitate people raising into that vibration. And anybody who gets in that vibration, that's where healing lives. That's where your spiritual gift lives. That's where this next level or the release of your traumas lives, because you're rising into a completely different vibration.
You mentioned yourself as a student. There are no scholarships in life, and you clearly paid a lot of tuition for the lessons that you learned. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because I have a childhood friend whose mom was a heart surgeon and his dad is a brain surgeon, named Bomi. And their whole family comes from African family that comes from wealth. And he was going to take over his dad's practice. And he was like, man, I got to go to school. Then we're going to go to college. And then he's in school, man. Homie, just listen, I graduated in 1998. He graduated in 1999. He just got out of school 2 years ago. And now he just took over his dad's practice. I said, man, there is no way that I'm going to go to school for 15, 20 years just to make the big bucks, right? So I was like, no college, no nothing. But meanwhile, I had this big vision in life. Then all of a sudden, the hard knocks happened. I fell down, lived in my car, figured out a way to get out of that. Was in prison for 2.5 years, figured out a way to get out of that. Didn't come for money, figured out a way to break that matrix and like literally be in the abundance frequency. Was so unworthy inside of my own skin, figured out a way to like truly honor that the chief that I am in the world, and the reverence that I have for women. I used to cheat on all the girlfriends that I had, figured out a way to be a devoted man, devoted husband. So when I look at the time that Bomi spent in school to get the big bucks, and then I look at the time I spent in the school of life, it is the exact amount of time you will get rewarded in life for the price you had to pay if you learn how to evolve from your limited thinking and live inside your bigness. But you will not go without having to pay some aspect of a price. Classes in session. There will always be dragons at the end of Super Mario round to get to the next level. There will always be a test at the end of the round of a current aspect of your life to see if you're ready to go to the next level.
So you have a PhD in life right about now.
For sure.
And he has a PhD at least in medicine.
Yes.
You are a healer. You help people through what I've heard you refer to as the disintegration. You want to talk about that? What an adult is?
Yeah. I mean, you got to look at it like this. If you can see again how ABCs transforms into dancing, into singing, into rhythm, into running, because it's the foundation of language and it's the building blocks of growth, ABCs, okay? Now, the ABCs of a little child whose father abandoned them, whose mother abandoned them, whose parents weren't, they always made them feel less than. That little kid creates a story, lives inside of the vibration, and then inside of that vibration, unless you start doing something different, it's no different than you having an iPhone and the app is still open. The app is not going to close until you close one of those apps. And the more apps you have open, the slower your phone is. So the human, when you're impacted as a child, each thing that impacts you, you create a story. And then you start living that story. Your story shapes and creates your life, not what happened to you, because what happens to you is what happens to you. But what you do about it, what you think about it, what you say about it, is how you start identifying with it, and that's what shapes and creates your life.
Is that self-talk?
So adults, self-talk, negative thinking, the way that you act, the way that you respond to things, things that are triggered inside of you. So that's why I say adults are deteriorated children. So if you can take it all the way back from the first time you got heartbroken, the first time you got rejected, the first time you felt unworthy, the first time you cut off your limited thinking, or you cut off your bigness uh, because you were just afraid to be yourself because of what other people might think. If you take it all the way back, there's more power in the trauma of that little kid than the adult will ever experience. And this is why little kids shut down. They shut off the emotions. And then because they shut off those emotions, what they then start doing is they start finding other ways to release those emotions. And as you get older, it turns into over-sexualizing. It turns into drugs, alcohol, porn, overworking, trying to prove daddy right, trying to prove daddy wrong, all this other stuff. So most people are focused on the surface of the adult. But meanwhile, there's a little kid inside trying to make somebody pay the price over and over and over. The same guy you keep on attracting in your life, the same woman that you keep on attracting in your life is probably a remnant of the healing that hasn't happened with your mom yet. So instead of focusing on the surface, start. There's pockets and treasures of your life that are wanting you to probably come back inside of yourself and express those true emotions like the little kid always wanted to express, instead of numbing themselves out or being quiet because they were afraid to speak up. That will unlock so much energy inside of your body. It will free up some stuff. And of course, I wouldn't tell somebody just go and do it. Like, find somebody who's qualified to support you in doing nervous system regulation and things like that.
You took some steps. You took some steps. You took a step to reach out to people who bullied you and apologize.
Yeah, but
what?
But it wasn't just them. It wasn't just them. I took steps and I wrote a list of 250 names of everyone, because I was in the process of transforming my life. And I used to bully this girl when I was 7 years old. We were on a bus. You know, little kids, little boys and girls hit each other all the time. That it's not like a man and a woman. And I pulled the drawstring over her head, and I hit her. I remember hitting her in the head with my yellow backpack. I've had many classes with her after that. We're in our 40s, but every time I think of this one woman, I always think of that moment. So I decided one day, wow, I was like, let me just reach out to Tess. Hey, Tess, I just wanted to apologize. You probably don't remember this, but I just wanted to apologize for hitting you in the head when we were 7 years old. You know, kids do the stupidest things. And then she didn't respond. And I'm like, we were just going back and forth, and she didn't respond. I went on Facebook to post the same thing and do a public apology. She instantly responded to me. She said, can you please remove that? I'm in tears right now. Number one, why'd you do that? Number two, what about me made you do that? Number three, the same thing is happening to my kids, and I don't know what to tell them. And I was like, holy crap, people, hold on. I didn't even know that they remember how you made them feel. And then even whether they remember it or not, but their encounter with you will bring that feeling back up, whether they're conscious or not. So what that taught me was, wow, there's probably a lot of people in my life that I left feeling wrong, people that I had negative thoughts toward, women that I cheated on, people that I beat up.
Was it karma coming up inside you? Was there something that you were feeling that you felt like, I kind of got to do this? Like, were you hit bad times and you feel like this is all me? What was it?
I wasn't aware that people can hold on to the way that you made them feel. So it wasn't a karma thing because I wasn't even aware. But you can't change what you're not aware of. So once I was made aware, I was like, oh my goodness, I I got some people to call. I would love to clear the air. I didn't even know people hold on the little girl who I smacked in the butt when I was 5 years old and stole her gum. Like, I didn't know people hold on to that. Sometimes people are like, ah, man, it's nothing. I've been forgot about that. But the little kid inside of them didn't. So in the process of transforming my life, I wrote a list of 250 names from when I was a little kid all the way up to present moment. Boy, I was doing some research. I
What
was
did
going
that
on.
What did that feel like for you though? Just the writing. Before you get to what you did with the list, what did that
There
do
was
for
a
you? Just the writing.
freeing. There was a freeing I didn't even know I need to free. It's an energy. If you take a ball, a volleyball that's not supposed to be in the water, and you put it underwater, it's literally trying to come up. But as soon as you release your hand, how fast does it come up?
Real fast.
To where it's supposed to be. So I didn't even know that that energy was there until I even started being in the act of clearing my life. And all of a sudden I was like, wow, so I pay attention to this universal order, this plastic universe. Life's not happening to you, it's responding to you. So every time I would make an act towards transforming my life and having uncomfortable conversations, I would instantly notice these positive things kind of like coming my way. I'm like, so that's what I got inspired by writing these lists of 250 names with the intention of apologizing to people for the negativity or the harm that I caused them without blaming them for whatever they did. It was only me clearing myself. Now, even people who hurt me, if I ever thought negative about you, my goal was to apologize to them and
Talk
not
about
bring
that.
up what they did.
Stay there because I'm not that dude, right? I'm not that involved.
Yeah.
Uh, you talked about how for you apologized to them for what you thought about them. That was between you and you, man. Like why let that out?
Well, because you got to understand, I I also have my PhD in energy and vibration. So if you have negative thoughts inside of you, that's literally like throwing battery acid on your future. I'm just clearing what's inside of me. So if it's a negative thought, there is nothing uplifting about that. There is no high range frequency inside of negativity, resentment, not being able to forgive. So if I can clear myself, which is better for my wife, better for my sex, better for my money, better for the auric field that surrounds me, it's better because I'm a vibrational being. So if you have low resonating energy inside of you, regardless of what anybody did, you might not be that dude, but you just might not be aware of how valuable it is to everything that you want to create, because we're the most powerful magnet in the world. So you could be repelling something that you don't even, you're like, man, I'm working so hard, but you don't even realize that your energy is working 1,000 times harder. So if you then go inside and say, oh, hold on, I'm actually going to be the highest vibration possible. There's no, there's not going to be any energy leaks or kinks inside of my vessel. So now I'm like, so all I get to do is have a conversation, and I'm not
But how
saying
did
that the
you
money
know
will.
they were going to be even open to it? Like, did it matter that they were even
It,
open to
it,
the
it,
conversation?
it, it, it didn't matter because I was being intentional with my life. So as long as you're in the act of, see, when you're causation of your life, now you're not reactive of life. I was causation of my healing, causation of my transformation. So it didn't matter if they was going to pick up or not. I'm just like, hey man, I'm in the process of transforming my life, and I just want to apologize for setting you up in seventh grade and having the teacher uh, think that you're the one who stole the cinnamon roll. And you know what I got? Man, I've hated you for 30 years. I'm like, why? Because when I know I didn't steal that cinnamon roll and we were in in-school suspension, then you blamed me. I got in trouble. My dad whooped me. I got in trouble. I got grounded. He made me move with my mom. I got into drugs. I ended up going to jail. And the process, because nobody believed me, I started to turn on everybody. And I was like, oh shit, you never know the chain reaction of anything. And so
That's your
I
point
said,
on that's your thesis on energy as a whole,
energy
right?
as a whole. So I'm like, man, David, man, I really apologize, dude. Like, man, if I would have known what I know now, I had no idea. But still, he was not open to the conversation. However, I was clear. So whatever he did with it is what he gets to live with. But I was clear, and I knew I was clear. Then all of a sudden, a universal order, something starts happening, but it was always positive when I was going into the tough conversations. When I was having the conversations I knew I didn't want to have, and that knot would come up in my stomach. So I did that 250 times. Now, this is why I have so much confidence when I walk into any room in front of anybody. It don't matter if you're a billionaire or brokenaire. I don't shift. I don't change. I don't shrink down. I'm always in my bigness. I'm always in my magic, because I know I did the work that most people on this planet will probably never do. But that work did something for me. And I was like, oh, there's no such thing as outside freedom. Outside freedom is when you give your power away. True freedom to me was when you have the power to possess your own mind. And so I started feeling the inner liberation with every conversation I was having. It was closing a loop, closing a loop, closing a loop, closing a loop. And the more I was doing that, I'm like, oh, wait a second. My business started taking off. So here I am at a limit in my business, and I do all these calls. Interesting, in the same month. I mean, in the first 18 months, I was earning $70,000 a month passive income, and I was just homeless, $250,000 in debt. Not saying that this would happen for everybody, but you can have a spiritual dam on your life and not even know it. It's all energy. So if you clean your energy, it's not about how the other person responds. You're clearing yourself so that you can be an open divine vessel to do what you came to do in the world.
Even the most practical sense, if there are less people out there who hate on you, there are less people standing in the way of your success. So even if one doesn't believe in the energy, they would have to believe that that's 250 less people who want to see you lose.
Well, the thing about it is, one believes in the energy, they just don't know it. It's like you go to your grandmother's house, before you get in there and that screen opens up and you know she's cooking food, before you even encounter anybody, something starts to change inside of you. That's her energy. Now, if you go over to somebody's house that and there's a bunch of negative people there, and then somebody talking shit, and nobody's talking, but you can feel it. You can feel it. All of that is energy. It's just that so many people
It's how black people ask who all's gonna be there, right? When you say you're having something at the crib, the first question they ask is who all's gonna be there.
Who all gonna be there?
Is that the energy question?
So I can see if it's the right space for me to be in. All of that is energy. Just a lot of people haven't been educated on how to prime your energy, raise your vibration, tune your frequency, because we're literally like a radio station.
You do, I don't want to call them workshops because I feel like that might undermine the work that you do.
For sure.
On the same token, as I've watched your videos throughout your life, I'll be honest with you, I had to look at some of the early videos of you and some of the more recent ones. I barely recognized you physically. And you know, if you had committed a crime back then, I probably would have recognized it as you, but you understand the point. The point is that you aesthetically look different. And there are those who come out of your seminars. Now, I'll let you name what they are. I'm going to refer to them in the most basic sense, your seminars, who talk about being uplifted and being taken through. Coming back to this convoluted question,
Yeah.
you talk about the child as the artist,
Yeah.
someone who crafts their world. Did you repaint yourself?
No, I remembered myself. I didn't have to repaint it. Yoda was not too far off when in Star Wars he was like, you must unlearn everything that you've learned. They were feeding this to us as kids. So when I remembered what made me happy, not what made everybody else happy, when I remembered what brought me so much joy. I
We
love
know
to
it though.
say,
Like, you know that one of the things you talk about is confidence, and I want to stay
yeah,
there because I want to marry these two.
yeah,
I think, you know, like I said, I'm here at the happiest place on earth, right? A lot of folks they know what makes them happy, but the courage, you keep talking about confidence to go find it, like to go be that.
yeah.
Where the hell did that come from?
Well, confidence comes from reps. There's so many people that say, oh, I'm not confident. And so I'm just going to ask you, what's your name?
Steve Perry,
Okay. How tall are you?
5'9".
What color is your hair?
I think it's black and gray now. I think I got more gray than black.
What size shoe do you wear?
11.
What city do you live in?
West Haven, Connecticut.
I can ask 99 out of 99 not confident people that exact same question, and they will confidently respond exactly how you respond. I'm like, you said you weren't confident. No, it's where you put your energy and where you put your reps in. You just haven't put reps in the area where you lack confidence. So you do anything the same way you did your name, the same way you learned how to walk, the same way how you adapted into the upright position, the same way you learned how to swim, tie your shoes. I could name like 100 things in somebody's life where they just effortlessly do it. That's all confidence. Is people lack reps. They don't lack confidence. They lack reps in the area where they want something to happen. And one of the most highest degrees of leadership is patience. But most of the world is impatient with the process of being able to get their reps in the areas of their life that they want something because they want it now.
But you teach patience in a very hands-on way.
Well, I am patient. So because I embody what I teach, it transcends what I'm actually saying. And this goes back to the energy body. Like when I'm in space with a person and I'm here and I'm connected with them and they feel like they're the only person in the world where there's 50 people in the room, oh, something's going to happen. We will transcend whatever's going on right now. And I had to learn patience because when I was in prison, all of the inmates that were local, they were writing letters and they were getting their letters back in a week. Because I was there on drug charges, they had to decode everything I was writing. So I would write a letter, it would take 2 months to get to the USA. And then it would take 2 months to get back. And I wrote maybe 150 letters just to my friends. 4 people wrote me back. So what that taught me was nobody's going to come and save me. And I got to figure out a way to use my mind differently other than just waiting. So that's when I started remembering and being creative again and drawing again and doing all these different things. So now I don't do patience for a checkoff, for like checking off a list. I am the frequency of patience. There is no separation. It's just who I am. And you will show up to your own life based off of how you identify.
You mentioned, and we've talked about it, I don't want to go too far down this part of your story because I don't think that it is the most important part. But you mentioned that you went to prison.
Yeah.
What happened?
I got busted smuggling 6.2 kilos of heroin from one country to the next. Now, did I know it was heroin? No, but I knew that I was doing something bad because all I was doing was driving a car over a border, over a ferry, ending up in Rotterdam, getting a package full of money, and then that's that. I did that route 7 times. On the 8th time going in from France into the UK, I got caught, and I was in a holding cell for an entire week. They fed me 1 time a day, one little slither of a sandwich. I didn't get to shower. I didn't get to brush my teeth. They were trying to starve me to get me to snitch on the person who I was working for. And unfortunately, I wasn't going to snitch because the person who I was working for, their kids went to my daughter's school. And so it wasn't nobody, I didn't want to put anybody in my family in danger of getting killed because of my lack of responsibility. So I was like, I'll take it. I'll take it on. And over time, that's what happens. It ended up being 6.2 kilos of heroin, and all of a sudden it was connected. I won't say which mafia. And I think the thing that had them not make me the lead person is when they pulled the drugs out, there was newspapers inside of the Congo drums from places I didn't have on my passport. So they knew there was an operation from somewhere else. But then they tracked the car. There was stolen luxury vehicle, which I had no idea. It was connected to a specific mafia, which I had no idea. And I'm like, wait, hold on. This is connected to, but I still didn't say anything. So that is how I ended up. My ego, my greed for money, and my lack of impatience is how I ended up in a prison far away from where I'm supposed to be.
What I want people to take from the story is not one point in the retelling of that story did you say you made a mistake. You said, I made a decision. You talked about your impatience. And the intentionality in your retelling is clearly thought out. You could have, like many people said, I grew up this way and my father was that. In no part of the story have you fallen on the proverbial, what I refer to as lazy emotional swords. Why not?
I'm going to tell you this, and I don't think I've ever really even shared this on any type of interview or a podcast or a TV show. When I got busted for smuggling, I knew the moment it happened, it wasn't for the reason why I got busted. When I was a little kid and I used to break into cars, break into houses, and I got away with it. Like I would go to the rich neighborhoods and break into cars and steal bank bags and steal guns and everything. And I always said, man, I bet you one day karma's going to come back and get me. But then after a while, I got away with it. And it was like, I mean, I broke into 60-something cars in one night. Each one of those cars is a felony. So that's 60-something felonies that I got away with. And I'm breaking into, I'm stealing people's wedding rings. And I could not stop. And I got away. And I said, I wonder whenever it's going to come back. So when I got busted, something inside of me said, Garrain, the compound effect of what you thought you got away with, that's actually why you're here. And I'm like, shit, you really can't get away with nothing.
Was that a sense of relief almost? Like, we'll call it
You
the
know what?
telltale
Yes.
heart moment?
Yes. because always in the quiet of my mind, in the back of my mind, I'm like, it never came back. Oh, it never came. But when it happened, it's like, boom. I was like, I know exactly why I'm going to prison. I know exactly why. It ain't even for this reason. It's for the things that I thought I got away with.
And you reference your decisions as your decisions. Again,
For
not
sure.
reflecting in any way on your circumstances. Because what I think is interesting about the explanation is that while you help people to return to their childhood to uncover what it is about them that they loved, you're not returning to your childhood to uncover what it is that you hate.
I did in the process of healing. And I was met with a lot of my edges when I'm like, why do I get so angry about this? And I don't even know why. I had no idea. And so as I started doing 10-day silent retreat, 5 days in the dark, spiritual psychology, uh, emotional intelligence, communications course 1, 2, 3, and 4, leadership training. I mean, I've got 15 years worth of training. And every single time I step into a retreat, a ceremony, a leadership course, I know that I'm going to meet a new part of myself, because sometimes you can be in a room with somebody and you completely forget, and then somebody can be telling your exact story and it'll unlock a sensory inside of your brain that you completely forgot about. And that's why communities, being in safe environments and communities who are vulnerably willing to share their experiences, that's why I think the world needs those type of containers. And that's why I create my retreats, so that people can be witnessed in their vulnerability, but also be witnessed in their power.
You talk a lot about vulnerability, and I think that among men in particular, that might be it can either be your albatross or your key. You use it as a key. How did you get the courage? Again, we're going back to your confidence.
Yeah.
How did you get the confidence to stand in front of everyone and essentially rip your shirt open and say, it is what it is?
It's not about how, it's about why. Because I reached a point, I had a 15-year-old daughter, Kylia is 22 now, that no matter how successful I was, that no matter, no matter how successful I was, no matter how much money I made, she wasn't budging. She didn't give a shit about none of that stuff. She just wanted daddy, but I didn't have no daddy I didn't even know how to show up as a daddy, because my dad wasn't there. He was murdered when I was 12 years old. And even when he was alive, he wasn't there. So I'm just showing up based off of no models. I had literally no models. So I'm just shooting darts in the wind. So it wasn't until I was like, man, I did the silent retreat. And at the end of the silent retreat, this guy named Steve, he's like, man, I've been in several containers for you, with you. And every single time your intention is to learn more about what's missing, so
Tell
that
us
you
what a
can.
container is, because I don't think everybody knows. You've got
A
some new people out
container
there.
is any environment that you're in, where there's a group of people. So container is a retreat, is an emotional intelligence course, is a mastermind. It's like when you're with a group of people, we call that a container. So anytime I was in one of those just opportunities to heal with a group of people or to learn more about myself, emotional intelligence courses, I was in several of those. And the guy, Steve, says, man, you always ask for the same thing. And it's almost like you're knocking on a door that's not there. He was like, you're a good looking guy. It's safe to say you can get any woman that you want. I said, yep. He said, get a date with your daughter. Oh, she's a girl. In my mind, she was 3, but she was 15. And I was like, I'm surrounded by women. I've never thought to ask them, what do they want? I was asking Jewish men, women, what do you want? Muslim women, what do you want? Christian women, what do you want? Women in general, what do you want? Black women, white women, Mexican, Asian. They said the same thing with a slightly different language. I want to be seen, heard, acknowledged, and want to feel safe. And then one woman goes, but when I say heard, I don't mean you repeating what I say. I want my heart to be felt. And I was like, oh my God, I have never in my life treated a woman in that way. I've never pursued a woman. So when he said, get a date with your daughter, I was like, I can do that. So I decided, instead of being a weak, because I was strong for all of y'all in the world, but I was weak around my daughter because I was shame and guilt. And I was like, well, I can't do anything about it in the past. And I'm giving you all of this context so you can know where the conversation came from. I said, I can't do anything about the past, but I can do something about me right now. And there has not been a model of a man who's a devoted husband, who is committed, who modeled fatherhood in a way where I was actually inspired. So I had to create it in my mind. So instead of being the weak version of me, I said, I am the most powerful representation of who my daughter will marry one day. And just by affirming that and changing the identity of who I was with my daughter, all of a sudden the relationship changed. She's like, Daddy, you're different.
What were the changes? Name some of the changes.
Because I'm pursuing her. I never pursued her before. She was like, don't call me. And I was like, I wouldn't call. And she was like, well, you don't call me. I was like, you told me not to call. That, she don't mean that. And so what I started doing says, you know what? I'm going to be a pillar for my daughter's life. And I am the most powerful representation of who my daughter will marry one day. That changed how I looked at all women, because I used to look at women through my dad's eyes. Now, the reason why so many women feel safe with me, because they've never felt this safe in front of a masculine man who doesn't want anything from them. And they're like, I've never. That's why my retreats are 94% women, and they all feel a level of safety they've never felt in their life. Because my daughter, oh, just give me 1 second. She taught me how to see the world with the eyes of love, without boundaries, without restriction. And when I could hold her like that and open up my heart in a way that my mom never even experienced that, all of these women around me's relationships with their dads started changing based off of how they saw me being a dad. And I was like, man, this is not just 1 or 2 women. This is like 30, 40 women whose dads are, and all of a sudden started pursuing them. So what I realized is just how powerful a woman is. Her energy, just by way of thought, can completely change her whole reality, but she's got to witness it. You can't be what you can't see. So all these women saw me pursuing my daughter and then saying, I wish my dad would do that. I wish my dad. Then they started picturing their dad being someone like me. And their dads started changing. So to answer your question, I saw the value in that. I was like, holy. So that's what gave me the confidence, because I felt it was my duty and my responsibility, not seeing any examples of a devoted, committed man, committed husband, committed father that doesn't have any leaky sexual energy when they're around beautiful women or women in general. There was no examples. So I said, I will be the example. Thank you. And it's so interesting. Right after that, that's when I met my wife. And we're now about to be 5 years, happily married, in a beautiful relationship. And
That's dope.
so I just want to close this out. My daughter trained me on how to be a real man inside of my own body, and not the kind of man that most men are raised to be by other unhealthy masculine men, but truly how to harness the feminine inside of me so that I could actually be a witness to the feminine, because everything is a mirror reflection. So by training with my daughter, I was training and healing the feminine inside of me, healing the masculine inside of me, and I became now the harmonized man, an embodied man who knows himself, so I don't have to lose myself inside of sex and inside of like weird ass thoughts and things like that. So my number one value is safety. So because I saw the value in what it was creating in the world without me barely opening my mouth, it was my way of being. Now people start changing because I was being different. I'm like, wow, if I could support people in fully accepting themselves, fully embodying themselves, women would heal and return back into their rightful frequency, rightful state, instead of having to come through this unhealthy masculine man's world. And then men could lead with women, not lead over women, but lead with women. It's a partnership, and we all need each other.
You mentioned earlier that your confidence comes from reps. And
yes,
you've also talked about vulnerability. Talk about how you get the reps in of vulnerability.
Again, as a man, I'm just going to say as a man, we're taught that real men don't cry. Vulnerability is weakness. So if you're domesticated in that, you will never feel safe enough because you don't want to be seen as weak, and you don't want to be, you don't want to be seen as what they say, crying like a girl or something like that. Meanwhile, you look at the statistics of men committing suicide, and it's rising. And the heart of that is unexpressed, suppressed men, where that expression, because suicide is a form of expression. All of that is pent up, suppressed expression. So if allowing yourself to feel all of it, now you know you'll gain access to why so much in your life is not working, because you're operating from probably 0.2% of yourself. So the vulnerability piece came online in 2013, and I was deathly afraid. I was pretending to be something that I was not, because so many people live as a mask of what they think other people think of them, which is
because you're a musician. People may not know that part.
Yeah. Because I was a musician, and I was making it seem like my life was good, but inside I was actually dying. Hey man, I'm just trying to get like you, and I'm like, man, I fucking want to kill myself. But you know what? No one ever asked me, hey, how's your heart? How are you doing? And really took the time. Why? Because that's not manly. And I wouldn't even respond. Why? Because that's not manly. Because that's how we're trained. We're literally trained like that. You can't unlearn English if you learn English. That's a training. But you can learn a new language. So when I got tired of living a false version of myself and making it look a certain way, in 2013, I went on social media and I was like, man, all these people think they know me. They have no idea. So I went on social media. I put a modeling photo up there, and it's still up there today. And I say, you think you know me? You have no idea. You know I've dated this person. You know I've been on this TV show. You know this and this and this and this. Right now, I'm living in my fucking car. Right now, I'm sleeping in a storage unit. Right now, I'm sleeping in an abandoned building on bubble wrap, pretending to be something that I'm not. And then I just shared my absolute truth. Not for people to feel sorry for me, because I would rather drown than spend another day inside of a false version of myself that I painted for other people. That was the scariest time of my life. And I didn't know what vulnerability was going to do. But you know what I did? I learned that if I can't be free inside of my own self, then what is the point of all of this? So I shared that. And I went from not having any likes, there was no verified accounts. I didn't have none of that stuff. It was just like whatever. And I posted that post. First message I got from somebody: thank you for your strength. I put the gun down. And I was like, wait, what? You mean to tell me my scary just saved somebody's life? The fifth message: I was on my way to drive my car off a bridge, but somebody shared your testimony with me. Thank you so much. And I was like, oh my God. And in that, I found purpose. So my vulnerability in a world full of people who are afraid to be vulnerable was the gateway into the heart of humanity. People listen to who they relate to.
Do you feel that the fact that you don't have trouble getting women, this is a real question, brother.
Yeah.
Do you feel that your capacity to attract women gave you greater latitude, so you didn't have to put on an air because you knew that you could get them anyway? Because sometimes dudes...
I didn't grow up like that, though.
Okay, let me hear it.
I didn't start puberty until I was 18 years old. So I was a little kid for a very long time. And every girl I liked in high school, they were like, oh, you're like my little brother. And I was fucking hate that. So I grew up.
Been there. Used to be called a button. Like, use a button.
This is what I'm saying. So I grew up with a small man complex. And he was like, oh, you're like my little brother. And, you know, and all the women, they would be like, no guys allowed, but Garrain, you can stay. And I was like, does she like me? They're like, oh, you're like my gayest straight friend. And I'm like, the fuck does that mean? So my head was so messed up. And so I was afraid to approach women because my whole life they rejected me. From little kid all the way on up, 18. So that's not something that was wired. That was something that was acquired over time. You know, I was a stripper when I was 18 years old. And so when I was a stripper, this is like right after I started puberty, and I was like, but I like the attention. It wasn't because I wanted to do that. I was like, I never got attention like this. So I could barely even dance. I could barely roll my body. But I was like, man, these grown-ass women like me. The only reason why I stopped stripping, because this lady, she was like, you look so familiar. I'm like, no. She was like, I know you. You're Miss Sherion's son. I work with your mom. And I was like, fuck. So that's how my mom found out. So it just got really weird.
Totally not sexy. Totally not sexy.
It got really weird really quick. And that's why I stopped stripping. My name was Mr. Fantasy, by the way.
Wow.
None of y'all know this.
That's why y'all know dumb questions, so they can find out what they've never known before.
Yeah.
So you said Mr. Fantasy. Keep going.
Yeah, and so I share all of that because I never had beautiful women start liking me until I was like 20 years old. And I remember this one girl named Jennifer King. She was like, oh, it's so cute. You're like and she pat me on my head. She's like, I bet you when you're like 30-something, you're going to be so fine. You're going to be so, and I had a bird chest too. And she's like, you're going to be so beautiful. I'm like, man. And meanwhile, I remember the doctor saying, he told my mom I wasn't going to grow past 5'8". I graduated high school at 5'7". And so I had a little shoe. Now I'm 11.5, 12, and I'm 6'1.5". And so it didn't make sense when I went back to my 20-year class year reunion with people who hadn't seen me in a long time. They were like, hold on, You graduated at 5'7". How you come back 6'1.5"? So it was a whole thing. And over time, when I started learning about who I was and not working out to get women, but working out because I wanted to be powerful for myself and learning how to love myself and the reps of continuously being myself without needing permission to be myself, it just became attractive. You ever seen a heavy-set woman leave the club with a beautiful man? You're like, how did he? Because she fucking confident as great. She was like, my outfit, my this, with it's the confidence that's sexy. She embodied every aspect of herself. It never made sense, but it makes sense now. A confident person will 100, not somebody who's punching above their weight class. A confident person who knows themselves and they don't shy away from their insecurities and they just own it all. There's something so attractive about that. That's why I tell people all the time in my talks, I'm like, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm a follower of Jesus Christ and I occasionally listen to trap music. So I'm like a habanero pepper. Either you really like me or you really don't. And I'm okay with that. So right now is the ticket to get off the train. So if you're not feeling me, cool. Go find somebody else you lock in with.
But you talk about confidence and vulnerability, and very often people don't see that they are literally simpatico, that one builds their vulnerability on the width of a foundation of confidence. And so a way to be vulnerable as a man is to know that you can be vulnerable. You seem to really delve, and I know we've gone past the time, but then I'm going to let you go in a minute. I really appreciate your time. But in the realest sense, I want to go back to you going out on a date with your daughter and the requirements that she had of you. What did that look like for you?
Can you say that again?
Yeah, what were the requirements that your daughter had for you to date her
No,
as you were challenged
it
on a date
wasn't
with her?
she wasn't in control of that. There were no requirements because there had never been a man in her life to pursue her. So how can you have standards on something you don't even know exists? It was to the point where I was just pursuing her and I was willing to do anything and everything. And so instead of saying like, hey, do you want to, and this is literally how I used to approach my daughter. Would you want to go to out to eat? And I'm like, why do I keep talking like that? Yeah, what? And she would always turn it down. You know what I did? I said, hey, we're going to the best restaurant in town. I want you to be magazine ready. Be ready by 3 p.m. Don't ask any questions. We're going to have the best night of our lives. Her mom said, what did you do to my daughter? I'm like, what are you talking about? She said she's changed and she's been all giddy in her closet and it's changed into 15 different outfits. She said, great job, Dad. And I was like, this shit works? What? Woo-hoo-hoo! And then when we went out to eat, normally I would hug her, but I would hug her from a weak place. Oh, I hope she loves me. This shit don't work. She wants the fullness. She wants embodied. She wants daddy. So when I went around her and I went to give her a hug, I wrapped my big muscly arm all the way around her and I pulled her in close to this. And she was uncomfortably close to my face. And I was like, I love you so much. She was like, and then she was trying to get out, but I could tell that she really wanted it. And I kissed her on her forehead, and then all of a sudden you just felt her body just melt in my arms. I was like, this shit works? So it wasn't a requirement, it was an embodiment. It was she wanted to feel like she was the only person in the world. And when I was with her, I wasn't thinking about work. And when I was with her, I wasn't thinking about all these. She literally was the only person in the world.
You didn't just drop the mic on that one, brother. You threw it out the window.
And this is the deal. Women want that. Whether they say they do or they want it. Whether they're conscious of, that's what they want. Whenever they say, I want my man to step up, they were like, I want him to listen to me. I want him to be here with my heart. I want him to not think about 1,000 things, whether it's dinner at the table, whether it's whatever. It's the presence. She wants to feel the presence of God through that man, making her feel like she's the only person in the world, because they want to feel seen, heard, and like they matter, and they want to feel safe. And when you're embodying that level of presence, it literally disarms all of the thousands of years women have had to protect themselves from leaky ass energy men. So, and in a moment, the wall just goes up. But when you're in your true divinity, that wall goes down and she will fall into her feminine.
The pursuit of daddy.
Yeah.
Pursuit of daddy. That's a mic drop. Brother, you know, we got to do this again. We got to do this again. We got to do this again. Tell folks a bit more about your containers, how they could participate. Now, a lot of folks want to know how they could participate in the next container. And then you and I are going to do this again real soon.
For sure. My next retreat is June 6th through the 10th in Austin, Texas. Anyone can DM me the words retreat, and then we'll book a call to see if it's the right fit, because we interview. There's a whole interview process, so the crazies don't get in and ruin it for everybody. But my retreat is called Artist Power Awakened, and I think we have 10 slots left, and it is going to be about 100 people. Such a magical, healing, uplifting, creating a launching pad for your life and your business because of who you vibrationally become. That right there is probably by far one of the most powerful retreats in the country. And that'll be June 6th through the 10th. So you can DM me the words retreat and then take it from there. And then I have a book out called Change Your Mindset, Change Your Life. And then a mastermind coming up in the next few months called Artist Power Expressed. Everything is revolving around healing the inner child, revealing the magic of the inner child, and providing you with the right combination of people and accountability so that you can lift your life in such a magical way and create the life that you actually want to live instead of the one that you settle for.
And then right here, we're going to finish on top, bro. Folks have been asking you to sing the entire time. So if you wouldn't mind gracing us with something on the way out.
Let me get my drum. Hey now! Hey now! Hey now, now, now! Hey now! Hey now! Hey now, now, now! Oh, 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 hey,
Garrain Jones, ladies and gentlemen. Garrain Jones. Killed it, brother. Thank you for no dumb questions. We're going to do this again real soon. You take good care of yourself.